Hey guys, so it's been a while. This video is gonna be a little bit more different. I'm not gonna be doing any audits right now, but I will be focusing on how you would do keyword research and mapping. Now, in particular, you could utilize a lot of keyword planner tools available out there. A good one will be the website auditor by SEO Power Suite. I think they have a really good software that helps you with doing the keyword mapping, and it saves a lot of the time actually doing that. But if you would have to go and do things the manual way and do things, you know, just with the plain old spreadsheets, I'll teach you a way on how you would do that utilizing any sort of keyword research tool. Now, ideally, I would use like SEMrush because that's I think the feature with SEMrush is they have a column that actually talks about the search intent. Now, I don't think the search intent data from SEMrush is 100% accurate, but I do think it's a good starting point. You would have to go into like doing a live SERP analysis, and you'd that way you'd be able to better understand if a keyword is really like informational, if it's commercial, if there's anything that you may have missed. Now, these tools are not 100% perfect as well. There are things that you may need to like overlook beyond the path, beyond just the data that SEMrush provides. And I think if you're having to base like a better business decision when you're making when you're doing any SEO, I think it'll be a bit more better if you base that data from Google Search Console and Google Analytics, only because those information are much more accurate to your current website performance rather than basing that data off from SEMrush, because they could make predictions based on like your average keyword position and also like the average search volume. So that could technically get you a rough estimate of your traffic, expected traffic you will get from your website, but it's not 100% accurate. So I would prefer to actually utilize Google Search Console because it gives you a better idea on what pages are performing and what keywords are the one that actually gets the impressions and clicks you need for your website. Now let's just get started. So when you're working with SEMrush, I think I already have that available here. I'm just gonna log in. Okay, how you would start when you're fresh on the site? Let's say I'll just grab like a random niche and let's do the old plain old ChatGPT. So I will ask ChatGPT a random niche that I have no idea, completely fresh. It's not scripted. I'm not telling ChatGPT to do this for me. So I'll ask, generate me a random niche that is interesting that I can study for my SEO. Include the search query, and let's get started. I actually had urban beekeeping last week. It's interesting that ChatGPT loves um, the urban kind of niches. Um, but this is interesting. So I'll just search for this search query, urban gardening, small space tips. I don't even know for the fact if this actually has the search volume. Because sometimes ChatGPT will generate you a list, a bunch of keywords, but they don't really have any search impressions, search volume. So, like exactly what I was expecting, nobody searches for this. What we could technically do is just go to Google. Now, if you're working with a client, if you're fresh off a niche and you have nothing to work with, and if you're having trouble with going to like SEMrush, the keyword planner, identifying which keywords are good target, for your seed keyword, I would look first on searching that query on Google. That way, you have a form of reference. Now, it will generate you a list of articles that may or not be relevant to the query that you're searching for. So, it gives you a better idea on, because Google is very smart. It really understands the context behind on the kind of queries you search based on your historical data, based on, you know, their algorithm. So you have a good amount of articles that are showing right here. What I would quickly do is just grab this link and go to SEMrush. I'll go to the organic research on the competitor research tools and just quickly look at the data. Now, sometimes they won't really have good keywords, and look, judging from how it's looking right here, they're ranking for a few keywords, but they're not, they're not in the top position. They're on the average 50-ish position, 40 plus. So they're not a good reference when you're making competitor research or you're doing competitor research. But what's a good idea to actually do is, look at the search intent, sort out the data based on the highest volume of keywords, and you have like small space gardening. Well, technically, for our search query that ChatGPT asks us to do is urban gardening for small spaces. I think this is very relevant, so I'm gonna have this as a search keyword. I think it has a good amount of volume as a starter, and we could click on this keyword right now, and now it will generate us a list of data that's related to the keywords. Gives you an idea of like relevant keywords, keyword variations of that, and also what's very important, it gives you a list of articles that are in the first and up to the 10th position, and gives you a better idea on what topics to actually cover. So right now, I'm looking at this one. You have an article that's on the first position. If we do the same domain organic research on this blog article, you would have more data to work with because they're literally getting traffic. So they have good amount of traffic, they have a good amount of keywords that are ranking for, and they have a lot of variations. It looks like they're ranking an average on the one or fifth position. Is great. This is the straight article that we're going to be looking at, and I'm going to be filtering the keywords based on the position. So I'll just be taking the top three for now, and it gives you a bit better idea. Great. Okay. So now ChatGPT asks us something really interesting. We're trying to search urban gardening, small spaces, that kind of niche. When you think about it, the recent updates that Google had from, you know, just the fact with AI integration with their searches like Gemini, the most affected websites are technically the small niche websites and blogs. I think in particular it's a lot more harder to rank for a niche as compared as compared to like a few years ago. So when you're thinking about your strategy and you're working from scratch with a website, now it will be a good idea to think about the big picture and categorize your topics based on your end goal is building topical authority. Now if I go to this website and it's Joe Gardner, they have like a lot of search traffic, a lot of backlinks. So this some bit more harder space to actually work with, but it gives you at least a better idea on what kind of website structure you will be doing when you're starting a website from scratch. Now, right off the bat, you can get a better idea, and I'll show you a quick tool to actually make it a little bit more easier for you to identify like their sitemap or how their website structure is organized. Now, there's a feature in ChatGPT that enables you to do that. So if we go to their sitemap, so this is joegardner.com. So go to sitemap. If this is WordPress, it's going to be a bit more harder for us to do. And of course, it's WordPress. Exactly what I was thinking. But I'll show you a real quick way to actually organize this sitemap. Now you would have to do some manual comparison, especially that since it's on WordPress, you would have to get the sitemap for the posts and all that. But if you're starting from scratch and you want a better idea on how you would structure your website, a good idea is to go to competitors and list down their site structure. And the way I would visualize it is I will go to ChatGPT, and there's a specific plugin called the whimsical diagrams, which should allow you to produce a sitemap. And I think you should be able to do that when you choose your GPT. When you search for Explore GPT and search for whimsical diagrams, you should be able to have this option here. And then paste in the sitemap and ask whimsical diagram or ChatGPT organize this sitemap into a mind map so I can visualize their website structure. And now the AI will automatically look at the mind like site structure and organize it based on different categories. Now sometimes there are gonna be issues and like mistakes happening on the categorization, but this is like a basic layout. So now it's just organizing things after it finishes generating the initial structure. You should be able to have an AI generated version of the mind map which you could look at, and I'll show you in a bit after this finishes. So we're just waiting for that to finish. Now, while we're waiting for that, I want to imprint the idea that when you're targeting for, and let's just say that we are specifically just a small blog that's talking about um, urban gardening, and we're not really specific in ranking for other keywords and other subtopics. And you would argue that, Paul, why would I target those kind of articles if I'm just a specific niche? Why do I need to cover those articles if I just want to rank for this topic? Now, when you think about it, it's been a lot more harder to rank for like niche blog articles only specifically because a lot of people have been going into the SEO space. You should be able to get a better idea on what I'm saying is if you start off a fresh site and you have no initial authority, you have no initial like backlinks supporting your website to build that authority. So Google is literally having to create nodes and create connections on what your website is and how it contributes to bringing new things into the table. Now, with AI being a problem, Google will want to sort out information and rank the ones that are actually, they're fine with AI generated content, but they want to rank the the articles that are actually bringing something new to the table. So those are if your articles are rich with media, if you have like videos and unique images, unique resources, linking to relevant authority websites, adding in like factual data and like your own analysis that makes your article unique as compared to all of the other competitors, then I think you would have a chance. But in this case, you're targeting like small space gardening, which is a so much more harder keyword to rank for in general because you have pure difficulty of 46%, which is possible. But if you look at the average positions of you know, from the top 10, you can look at the domain authority score, and you're looking at right now is a dilemma for a small blogger, for a small aspiring blogger. Now, if you're working on a specific niche site and you're looking at your competitors and you see this, what do you think is the best idea to actually do and how we would actually outcompete this. Now, just right off the bat, authority scores are an average is the minimum authority score you would need is at least 40, and you have a minimum amount of backlinks that you would need to actually signal to Google that you're an authority. So this is a very difficult topic to rank for. Ideally, if we're working with SEOs, maybe some SEOs may counter that, okay, if I can't rank for this keyword, then I'll just look at variations of that keyword, or maybe a potential subtopic that talks about this same niche that has lower keyword difficulty. Now, I would argue, no, it's not that simple, because it's Google makes association with um Google makes association on what articles or what pages are best to show on search results based on your topical authority. Now, if you have no prior SEO history or SEO performance history, Google will prefer to not actually crawl your website and rank it. Sometimes it may crawl your website, it will not rank it though. And you would see on Google Search Console having the issue having being crawled but not indexed. So Google is literally going to your website, but it's not indexing you just for the fact that it does not think that you're authoritative enough to show on search results. Now, straight off, like, if we have the seed keyword, like small space gardening, and look at the broad match, look, filter out the keyword difficulty and just choose the ones that are lower keyword difficulties, and you see straight out the bat, the keyword is, I think it's very scoped down to one specific topic, and I think it may be possible to rank for this, but it's not sustainable, because if you want to rank for an authority like a specific niche, then you would need to lay out the foundation of your website structure, laying down the foundations of um, building out to that niche. So if you're working with urban gardening, then you would need your website to also be um, structured in a way that it ranks the best for that niche. Now, Google doesn't only rank based on a page, it ranks based on your website. Now, if you've seen the recent Google leak data from, like, the recent leak data from a few months ago, I think it was from their API. There are a lot of people that actually has different opinions about the the attack, but one thing that you should take note is a lot of those data that's included in the leak is Google. It's very interesting because um Google is actually making their assumption on what a potential good article may be based on nav rank data. So a lot of the if you have a lot of history with your other pages, if you're ranking on a good amount of other related pages that's relevant to your niche, then that's also a good signal to Google that you're actually a potential authority of that domain. So I think that makes it a lot more easier if you think about it. It's hard to rank for small niche websites that's specific only to a small topic. But if you want to make a sustainable like a sustainable strategy to actually rank for um small space gardening, I think it would be best to actually create the website and structure it that's a bit more broader, as like the same way that how Joe Gardner actually structured his website. And if we go back to the whimsical diagrams and we can view it, the live version, now we have a good idea on how we should be able to structure the website. Now, what are the key things that you may want to have in your website? Now, right off the bat, like an about page. Now, podcast is highly debatable in case you're going to be doing that. But the resources page is very good because it's creating another, is leveraging a way for him to funnel down the top of funnel searches and nurture them so they'll become a warm lead in the future. I think that's a good idea to actually do that. And with the blog article and the basics webinar, you can see he has it on his main main top level pages. And we have the master classes, which is primarily, I think, is his money pages, more optimized for conversion, so not really for rankings, and some other pages here that's miscellaneous. But right off the bat, you see you need a better you need you need to work on your foundations first before you're actually prioritizing on ranking on sub niches like small space gardening. It's just basically impossible at this point to actually rank for those unless you have a good foundation with your website. So if you're looking at wanting to rank for this, you would need to expand. You will need to set your domain authority first, or like tell to Google what kind of domain you're covering with your website. In terms of like when I mean domain, I don't mean by like the one that you type on your URL structure like on like your browser. I mean specifically domain by in terms of like the scope of your topics that you're covering for your website. So a domain, a specific knowledge domain that's covering on gardening. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you want to rank for small space gardening at this point, and we can look at the keyword overview of this one. It's technically it has like a lower keyword difficulty of 14. Some SEO may argue that that may be a good article to target, but right off the bat, you see on the top 10 position on what domains are actually ranking for this. And if you're a fresh site and you have to compete with someone that has a domain authority of 23, even to get the chance to rank for a keyword difficulty 14 keyword, then you're just very limited. SEO may not be the best channel for you uh, for marketing, and you may opt to do paid ads, which I think will be more cost efficient. Because if you have to think about SEO, you're wanting to create yourself as an authority in the space and not just you cannot be an authority of small space gardening and not be an authority of gardening. I think those two are very interrelated, and the scope of like gardening niche in general is very competitive, and a lot of the different competitors are targeting this smaller subtopics into their website. That's why it's a lot more harder for smaller like upcoming bloggers that's wanting to rank for these keywords to actually compete in the first place, because a lot of these people are investing thousands of dollars with creating content and trying to outcompete each other. So how would you able to approach that? I think it's still possible to actually outcompete people that have this amount of historical data with SEO. Your best approach will be to actually create a solid website structure. Now, you would not rank for the first few months just because of the competitive nature of the niche. And your idea is to just create the initial foundations. That way, Google has a better understanding on what you're about, what your authority is about, what you're trying to rank for. And you may be a bit more slow in the first few months. But as you have that initial foundations laid down, then you could target for um, lower keyword difficulty keywords, and then try to build that initial clicks and impressions data, and that will be a good signal to Google for them to consider your website to rank for other related articles, but you want to scope everything down to the interconnected like domain that you have, like knowledge domain that you have. You can't specifically just target a specific like subdomain. I'm saying subdomain, I'm not talking like about a domain name, okay? I'm talking about like subdomain topic for like in this instance small space gardening. So at this point, how SEO is shifting, you would want to approach it on the big picture. You would want to approach strategizing on creating those um initial foundations and work from there. Now I think I've dived too deep into trying to explain that topic, but I just wanted to make it a little bit more clear. If I would go ahead and do keyword mapping, which was the original intent of this video, I would just quickly go on. Let me just do it real quick. Just have SEMrush available. Now let's say I am that other site that wasn't really ranking earlier, and let me see if I have the search history about that earlier. I think it was this site. Okay, let's say I am this client, or I am this site that has no authority. So I have a low SEO performance as compared to Joe Gardener. Let me just do that. Okay. I think there are a lot more. It's very surprising that they have it like that. It looks like they just didn't really optimize their articles really good. But I'll do something else. I'll go ahead and go back to the the ones we have here on search history, and I'm just trying to find out if I can look at a good comparison. So what I'm looking essentially is just looking for a site that's underperforming. So I'm just gonna go to the competitors. Let's look for the domains. I'm looking at the worst performing site, so I'll just go at the. Okay, it doesn't really allow me to this plan, so I'll just leave it like this and go to the worst performing out of this available data that we have. Let's make sure that I have that truncated. Search that. Okay. So a lot of these guys actually have good keywords, but okay, I'll take this one. So they have a average monthly traffic of 300, and keywords are somewhat needs a lot of work. I think in their case they're more of a local setting, so I don't think it will really matter for them to outcompete competitors that are more on a national level. So I think I'll just leave that. Um, okay, let's not do that. Let's see some other keywords here. Okay, I think we could reference this. Looks like this site hasn't been touched since 2016. So okay, just for a comparison, since they already have some initial traction with their like they already have some initial history with their SEO, I will just grab this one. So how I would do the keyword mapping is I'll just go to the organic research and export the keyword positions. So Excel or CSV is fine. We have like a bunch of keywords that we're ranking for. 2,700 keywords. And now I'll go back here on the SEO worksheet. So if you guys want a copy of this worksheet, I'll be fine to actually do that. But go on the organic keyword position. So how I manually, you know, optimize this uh sheet is I have automatic scripts set on the background that will actually format it to make things a lot more easier for us. So I will insert the pages we want to rank for, um, our current position. So we are currently, current position will be set here, and then the search intent and the traffic. The traffic was, like I said earlier, it's not going to be as accurate as compared to search volume, a Google Search Console, but at least we have like a sort of reference. Now I can add another column just for the SERP features. That way, if I'm actually searching for keywords that are more on a local setting that has local SERP feature, then I think it's a good idea to also have that. Okay, but now I have the organic keyword positions sheet. Now let's say I am trying to analyze a competitor and I want to outcompete Joe Gardner. So let's say I was working with Sanctuary Gardener, from that sweet lady that had that old website that was really ranking earlier. I will go to joegardner.com. Now they have a lot of keywords they're ranking for. I don't think search SEMrush is gonna allow me to export that on my current plan. So what I'm gonna do is just filter it to the top 10 positions. Either way, this is a good starting point for me to look at potential keywords that I may be able to rank for. Now, on average, the keyword difficulty on these keywords are a lot more harder, but at least it gives you a better idea on how you would want to structure your website. Now, you could technically sort out the keywords into like the lower tier keyword difficulty and try to approach it that way. Figure out what kind of keywords you can try to outcompete this competitor for. But that is one thing that you can consider. So now we have the data from Joe Gardner. We just need to open that and export it here. Now, the reason why I'm not importing it directly as a sheet here on the Google Sheet that I made is because I have a specific script I made here. And if you see here in I have a formula set here and automatic formatting for conditional formatting. And it also pulls in the data from your current position and the current position of the competitor. So I'll show you what I mean when I export it right now. So when I paste in the keywords here, now it's not gonna look pretty right now, but I'm gonna add in the search volume here, and then the search intent. It just makes it a little bit more easier for me to sort out the data and the keyword difficulty. So keyword difficulty here, and then the keyword position, our competitor position. So it gives at least it's a good idea to add in the competitor position. That way, when you're doing analysis on like what potential topics you can cover, you have a lot more flexibility when doing the research. And pages we want to rank will automatically pull here if we have a keyword that we are ranking for. Um, I would add like another column here just for the SERP features, and then I think we should be finished. So I'm just gonna copy this immediately here and paste it like that. And we have one last thing we have to add is the competitor reference URL. I think that'll be good addition. But right now, let's do a filter and create a filter on this table. We could technically do positions here. Now it's gonna look real funny, but I want to initially filter it like this. So I'm just gonna sort it to the average search volume. And then let's say I want to see what pages we want to rank for. Now, right now you're seeing like a bunch of blues. But if you want to see like what potential topics you're already ranking for, but the competitor is ranking a lot more better, I will just go here on the pages we want to rank column. And first off, I'm gonna clear the blank option here and select it like that. And now you should have a list of like different articles or like pages you have on your website that you are ranking for already based on this keyword. So if you search for where does asparagus grows, and you look at this one, you actually have a page right now on the website that's actually ranking for this one, and it's this one. So automatically, I have a script on Google Sheets that automatically updates it here on the keyword research mapping tool. Now I don't know why it's not highlighting as yellow, but right now you should be able to pull in and have that data available. Now, how I would use this data is if I have like this article that I'm trying to optimize, ideally I would love to work with analyzing how competitors written the article, and then I would be able to, you know, reverse engineer how I would approach and optimizing this article. Now, if we did a side by side comparison of this competitor article and the one that we have for Sanctuary Gardener, should give you a better idea on how you'd approach creating this article, especially since you already have some initial traction with positions. Now you have like zero ones here because technically your current position is above 80, so it's not gonna look pretty. But at least you have like some form of reference, and then you can sort out the data based on the lowest keyword difficulty and actually have something to work with. So your page technically is already ranking for Google. You have some bit of history and what you're wanting to leverage at this point is just looking into what are articles that you are ranking for and what Joe Gardiner is ranking for, and make comparisons on how to optimize the article based on that information. Now, right off the bat, you actually have a lot more better um you have a lot of assets and images, and I think that's good. I do think that you have a lot of specific topics that you haven't really covered on the article. Let's say for the asparagus varieties. If you look here, you have not mentioned any topics that talks about the varieties. So your top competitor is actually doing that. And a lot of the other ones here is covering other subtopics that you may have, like the pests and diseases. This was not covered here on this article. And you have a lot to work with. Now, this gives you a better idea as like a starting point on how you would approach this, because this website, they are technically ranking for the first position. People are coming back to this article only because it's actually solving their pain point. Now their pain point is they want to know the complete like guide on how to grow asparagus and without having to reference into like other websites. Now, right now in your article, you're not talking about the full guide. There's still a lot of questions that's being unanswered. Like, what are the different like varieties of asparagus? How do I deal with the pests that I may encounter when growing asparagus? You don't have good interlinking structure that you know supports the other contents you have on the website. There's a lot of things that you have to consider. Mentioning these topics within your article will also signal to Google that, okay, historically, I have a good idea on what articles are ranking for this topic. I want to get a better idea on what this one is bringing new to the table. So aside from just doing competitor analysis and looking at articles and how you would like cover these other topics that the top competitor is doing, you would want to incorporate how you would make your content unique in terms of bringing something new to the table. Let's say if you have a good background like in like science and uh botany, so you're like a botanist that has good experience in the field. I think you have a lot to bring into the table in terms of like what research or studies you have, and be able to write a better article. And I think you already have a solid foundation in terms for you have a good understanding on how you would write the article. You just need a better implementation and covering topics. That way you will be able to compete for competitors as compared to this. Right now, this tough niche for a small blogger site like this one. But yeah, I think this gives you a better idea on how you would try to approach when you're working with a fresh site and literally having to work with a fresh niche. Um, like I said, if you're wanting to like even have the chance to stand out with SEO, nowadays you would want to think about the big picture of your website and try to build that connection to Google on what authority you're trying to rank for. So if you're approaching SEO like 10 years ago, I think you'd find it surprising that it's a lot more harder to compete for specific topics. So unless you are ready to actually start from the ground up and build that over authority over time, I don't think SEO is going to be a good metric for you, especially if you're wanting to, if you have a specific like ROI in mind with your marketing. SEO in particular is more of a long game. You're looking at the future on building that initial authority and building organic traffic over time that's not reliant on paying Google to showcase your website. Now, if you're wanting to get the initial leads, it will be a lot more better for you to consider paid ads only because you have a lot better chance with actually competing in the market as long as you have the right amount of budget. And I think you would be able to target the lower competitor, lower competitive keywords that has the right intent that you have. For a smaller site, ideally you would target like um highly bottom of the funnel search intent keywords. That way you would actually have a better better budgeting in terms for Google Ads. And I think that would contribute somehow with you getting initial traction for your website. And then down the line, once you get the paid ads and that's profitable, then you would have to consider SEO. But in in this case, if you're starting from scratch, um, unless you're wanting to rank only for a local setting, now it's a complete different scenario. If you're only wanting to rank for local SEO, I think you have a lot more chance with actually ranking for local SEO as compared to like a niche based national SEO kind of website. Only because if you have specific GMB that's tied to your website, then I think you have a lot better chance with getting some traffic. Uh, if you have a Google listing available, but if you're wanting to rank nationally, getting that organic traffic from our national level or even international level, it's a lot more competitive and it will be a lot more harder for you to actually compete with the top players. But yeah, this is a lot more longer video in general than I used to record. But I hope this actually gives you a better idea on how to approach things. Again, it's more for me rather from expecting people to watch this video, but I hope this has been helpful somehow. But yeah, thank you.